We're talking hardball, the bull and the better. Talking hardball, part of betting weekly. Handicappers, they're all in the know. Pick some winners and then we say, let's go. So come on, it's time to watch the show. We're talking hardball, Ken Griffey's grotesquely swollen jaw. We're talking hardball, over under on the hot dogs. Talking hardball, bring your giant bag of peanuts. Talking hardball.
Welcome into a Monday edition of Betting Weekly Hardball. I had to pause for a sec. I didn't realize we were both wearing blue. I'm wearing Dodger blue today because we have a big series coming up in San Diego. So fired up for that. And it's fired up for after a good sports weekend, a sneaky good sports weekend with some good drama in baseball, especially last night on Sunday Night Baseball. You had the NBA Finals, you had the Belmont, you had college baseball going on. So busy weekend for any sports bettor out there. How about your weekend, Albert?
It was great. I mean, it's getting really hot here in Texas. We had storms last night, but it's getting creeping up to the 90s. I'm sure it's like that in Vegas as well. But you're right. Sports was awesome. The hockey games have been incredible. I don't know if you guys have been following the Stanley Cup, but it's been amazing. And it's U.S. Open week. So if you're into golf, this is the week to get into it. The rough looks insane. Hopefully, scores over par this week.
Yeah, I'm going to be fading Rory to miss the cut. I think I'm going to get a big plus price on that. But no, it is exciting. And the Stanley Cup, you're right. Florida monster comeback after Edmonton comeback in game one. This is such an evenly matched series. So, by the way, we should introduce ourselves, or I should introduce ourselves. I'm Doug Kezirian alongside Albert Nguyen, also known as Analytics Capper. But hey, we're over a month into this brand new show. We're household names at this point. Betting Weekly Hardball taking off. Just a reminder, 2 p.m. Eastern every weekday, 11 a.m. Pacific. Also, Betting Weekly Fast Break, talking hoops. Top of the hour, that's 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. So let's get into the aforementioned series that I mentioned in the top of the show in San Diego. Padres hosting the Dodgers. These two powerhouse programs, if you will, franchises, combined 22 games above 500. Interesting pitching matchup. Ginger guard Dustin May goes for the Dodgers, and he's been really all over the place, but in a good way and a bad way. And the Padres are going to counter with Nick Pivetta, and this is certainly a rivalry game, Albert.
Yeah, this has been a rivalry now for a few years. It's not big brother, little brother anymore. I mean, the Padres are spending a ton in terms of payroll. They're playing really well. They have a ton of talent. I'm excited because this is the first series of the year between these two teams. They're only, what, 60, 80 miles in between the two stadiums, so it's really close. I'm excited to watch it, but the interesting thing here, and you mentioned the pitching, Doug, is both teams are actually kind of struggling heading into this matchup. I know the Dodgers basically around 500. The Padres are I think 6-4 in their last 10. So it's interesting to see how these teams react. They also had no days off. Both teams played yesterday, traveling. So I don't know. What are your initial thoughts on the series?
So I like Pavetta in a vacuum, right? But then things changed with his Dodgers lineup, and Mookie Betts was out for a little bit. When he came back, obviously the lineup picked up a little bit. And then I also like Dustin May, but I know he can get touched up a little bit. He's stubborn, doesn't give in. I'm just a little uneasy with him. I might be looking at some props. I think the juices will be flowing, if you will,
Yeah.
for both the batters and the pitchers. So maybe a strikeout prop for May over 4.5. The Dodgers will should leave him in for a little bit, and I think he's a guy who's willing to go deep in terms of his pitch count and stuff like that. So that's my early read is Dustin May over 4.5 strikeouts minus 105 at Bet Rivers.
Yeah, I don't have an official play on this, but I do lean the Dodgers in the first five. There's a few reasons for that. Obviously, I don't want to deal with the Dodgers bullpen. They've struggled all year long. I know they made a recent trade to try to shore that up. Hasn't really improved that much. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, they've been struggling, but a lot of that has to be, the scheduling, right? They've played some of the best teams in all of baseball the last 2 weeks. Mets, Yankees, Mets again, Cardinals, and now the Padres. So basically four of the top six, seven teams in the entire baseball. So um, they're struggling. They're dealing with some injuries, but I kind of like them. I think there's value in terms of buying low with this team because they still have all those guys back up top. Betts is back as well. I like the first five. I don't want to deal with their bullpen, and we know late games in San Diego. There's just a little voodoo when you see the Padres, especially if they're tied or down one. Like that lineup that San Diego throws out becomes really clutch. So not gonna deal with the voodoo there. I like the first five. Most likely a lean right now. We'll see if it's gonna be an official play later tonight.
In our pregame notes or pre-show notes, you mentioned Padres 8-2 to the under in their last 10. What do you make of this with an over/under of 8 and a solid pitching matchup?
Yeah, their lineup has been struggling, right? Their bats have been struggling, but it's a good opportunity to get at Dustin May. Um, Hopefully, I'm wrong about that because I still like the first five Dodgers, but Dustin May does throw a pretty straight line fastball, and these are fastball hitters for the Padres. A lot of power, both sides, both pulling the ball and opposite field. So it could be a high scoring game, but it is trending towards the under. Not only have the Padres gone 8-2 in the under in the last 10, but the bats for the Dodgers haven't been really that great since the first month of the season either. So it could be an underplay. I just don't trust either pitcher, to be honest. I think Dustin May is a little more talented than Pavetta. But I still, I don't know. It's the more I talk through this, that's a great question, Doug. And I think that's the value of these shows because we do it so early in the day. I think the more I talk about it and think through it, it's probably going to be a layoff for me. I'm going to pass on this game.
I know we were talking with our director and researcher and some producers behind the scenes, and I was like, "Let's see what the show, pulls out of me." Basically, it's good to talk it out with fellow sharp bettors like yourself and guys behind the scenes. Like we all. That's the beauty of betting now is it's become day to day just discussion. Well, it's sports in general. This is a sports discussion, really. It just happens to be through the lens of betting. And I like breaking down this stuff because I'll have leans that I make plays or plays that I soften and pull back, maybe even go the opposite that I'm, really swayed a certain way. So I agree with the Padres voodoo component. Dodgers aren't in a groove. And if they're priced a certain way, like they are, you just want to you got to be careful betting on these really good teams on paper that aren't in a groove. You're just not getting value. You want to wait for them to be on a roll, and then they're actually underpriced. So, and especially against the Padres, like they do hit righties well, but I think the Pavettas, but I'm going to come back. Maybe May over 4.5 strikeouts. At least I'm looking there. Now, I mentioned 22 games above 500 for the Dodgers and Padres. The real series going on starting today is in Philly. Phil's hosting the Cubs, combined 24 games above 500. The Phillies behind Wheeler, buck 36 favorite at Bet Rivers, over under 7.5. So Boyd and Wheeler here. This Cubs team isn't going anywhere. I think they're going to be here to stay thanks to pitching like Boyd. But the Phillies in a funk a little bit, just got swept by the Pirates. So a little Keystone battle showdown there. But the Phillies are still, they were the best record in the NL, not so much anymore. Run line, by the way, nice plus price. If you think the Phillies can get to Boyd minus 150, or excuse me, minus 1.5 plus 155. Any opinion here?
Yeah, you mentioned 24 games above 500. This is after the Phillies have gone 1-9 in their last 10, right? So they're playing really bad baseball right now. They're still one of the best teams in the majors, and they're going to end up being one of the contenders at the end. But this is just one of those spots in a long 162 game season where the team isn't playing well from pitching all the way to hitting. But I do think this is a great spot, a situational spot for not only the team that is, 1-9 their last 10, but for Wheeler, because Wheeler's been pitching really well this season, but he is coming off a loss. So it's kind of like a double situational spot, bounce back spot for me, for the team and the pitcher. I think the most important thing, though, that you want to look at is how Wheeler is early in the game. Because if you look at these stats, and let me pull it up now, the Cubs actually hit. Let me give me a second here.
Well, so Wheeler, I was on him in that game that he got touched up by the Braves. It
Yep.
was a delayed start because of a rain out the previous day, so he went to the doubleheader. I think he had the game too. He went against Chris Sale, but then he missed a start with back problems. So I think the back problems stemmed before that start because there was massive steam on Atlanta in that game to the point where the Phillies at home with Wheeler went off as an underdog at plus 105. I knew I was dead to rights as soon as that happened. So you have Wheeler coming off a back injury, didn't go the IL, but he did skip a start. So he hasn't pitched in about 10 days or so.
Mhm.
He's been fantastic, except for that last outing. And then now he's got that back issue.
Yeah, and that last outing is what I wanted to get to. His issue was the walks. He had four walks in his, 5 innings, but there were several situations throughout those first 5 innings where he had three balls that he could have just, he could have had more walks. And I bring that up because the Cubs against right-handed pitching have been amazing this season. They're averaging 5.8 runs for 9 innings. And on top of that, not only extra base hits, not only home run percentage above average, but the walks. They're getting to right-handed pitching through walking and getting on base. So that's something that I wanted to point out. If Wheeler can get through the first couple innings clean, I expect him to do pretty well. But I do think this is a good spot, and that's a great point that you made. This is after a skip of a start, so he could be a lot more rested. We'll see, right? We'll see. It's rest versus rust, and we'll see how good he is in the first couple innings.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I was going to ask you is how do you treat these situations typically? Because I'm a little wait and see. I love Wheeler, but I mean, I think he's fantastic, but I do have concern. But the flip side is, well, the Phillies wouldn't trot him out there in early to mid June if he wasn't ready to rock. Now they did in the last game clearly because there was steam, so some word got out, and then he missed his next start. So I think the Phillies are the right side here. I trust Wheeler to bounce back, but because it's been 10 days and he had the back stuff, you just don't know if it's going to flare up. There's going to be better times to bet on Wheeler when he's not coming off a minor injury. So I'm passing, but I understand the allure of Wheeler at home at minus 136.
Yeah, you talk about us matching in blue. You want to go to the next series with the Blue Jays because the Cardinals, if you look at their schedule, and it's funny that you brought up what we're wearing, but I looked at their previous 10 games. Basically, they've been playing teams that have been in blue. So Dodgers, Blue Jays, Royals. It's going to be an interesting series. I like Toronto in this series. What are your thoughts?
So it's funny. I want to just shout out to the chat. Chat is heating up, so we appreciate everyone. Get involved. Um, in the conversation on YouTube. Look at these comments pouring in. Starts off with Byron Merle, Doug and Albert. Hola, muchachos. Hola, Byron. Good to have you with us. But you mentioned the Blue Jays, and whereas Byron again, I like Toronto to win the series in St. Louis at plus 114. Barrios going today, Bassett, and then the bullpen game at a 215 getaway Wednesday. Any thoughts? I know I think, feel like the last show we did, Albert, in baseball, we talked about some series prices.
Yep.
Any interest on this Monday with series starting today?
I do agree. I like the series, but I don't love Jose Barrios, to be honest. I think
Right.
he's the more talented pitcher of the two going today, but I think his fastball is too straight. It's easy to spot for hitters, especially St. Louis at home. They play really well. But Toronto's just been playing a lot better. And I think about 9, 10 days ago, they had that series against the Athletics. That's what really turned, this season pretty much around for them. They swept that series 4-0. They manufactured 12, 11, 8, and 8 runs. So that really, really got that offense as a get right spot, if you will, of playing the Athletics during that time. And so they've been playing well ever since. And I do like the Blue Jays to continue and win the series. I just don't know about tonight. And I think that's good insight if you're a series better, especially like we talked about the NBA finals earlier. But if you like Toronto for the series and you don't like them tonight specifically, like I don't, then you should wait after game one and see if you can kind of roll over the game two money line into game three. I think that would be the play.
Yeah, you're right about the Blue Jays turning things around. I almost said Raptors. They're 5 games above 500. I did not realize that. They're tied with Tampa in second place behind the Yanks, only 4.5 games back. So and I believe the last time you were on the show a week ago, you had the Blue Jays at a nice dog price and they cashed in with ease. So good on you there. I think the Blue Jays, it's tough for me to bet against the Cardinals right now. They're like my Achilles heel. But if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it with Palante starting. So he's been certainly roughed up lately. I mean, definitely the last start, but he's a guy should not be priced at minus 113 against a Blue Jays lineup like this. So I think this is mispriced in that regard. But yeah, no, so we're not really taking big bites yet, but this is a interesting matchup. And I don't want to bring up PTSD or anything, but you were on the Braves last week when they had a
Oh,
comfortable lead in the ninth inning and then blew it. What was it, 10-4? Oh, gosh. And this is all part of a 7-game skid the Braves are. Now they visit the Brewers, who are kind of on the polar opposite end of things. Yes, 2-3 run in the last 5, but that came after 8 straight wins. So they're 10-3 in their last 13. Chris Sale, who we mentioned earlier, has been fantastic in many starts this year. He's facing Savali. Um, I I hate betting on teams when they're in a funk like this. And frankly, the interesting thing about the Braves is that it's overlapped one of their main guys coming back. They're 3-12 since Acuna came back
yeah.
from injury, and that's bizarre. But I guess 15 game sample size is not the largest. It's not the smallest either, but still, over under 7.5. Sale, he can get his pitch count up there, and that would be the only concern I have backing in. But he's just been so darn reliable. Through a gem against Arizona. That was after that gem I mentioned against Philly in Philly. 6 shutout innings, only scattering 2 hits. I will say he does give up some walks, so maybe a prop along those lines would interest me. What about you?
I lean the under here. I think, especially with Atlanta, outside of that game that they lost 10-11, their bats have been really, really bad, including, their superstar Acuna coming back. But I like the under here. Chris Sale has been, decent throughout the season. And the Brewers being at home, I think they like small ball. I think they're going to try to just manufacture a few runs and try to get the W. And it's the question is, do I want to isolate the first five under versus the full game under? I think it's low at 7.5 for a reason. I think I feel a lot more safe or a lot more confident in the full game under. Still another lean. I do have an official play. I'm sure people are waiting. Albert, is he going to fire at anything tonight? But I do have an official play later. Doesn't mean these leans won't turn into plays, but right now I'm still just doing fact finding and research.
Yeah, I am going to make a play here. I'm going to go Sale over 17.5 outs. That
I
means we
like
need to go
that.
through 6.
Yeah.
Now it's juicy, minus 186, but Sale is as reliable as they come going in. I mean, 6 or more innings, and of the last, what is this, 3, 6, 7 starts, he's gone 6 or more in all but one. The only time he didn't was 5 2/3 because he had 99 pitches and 8 strikeouts, and the Pirates were just whiffing at everything. So he was able to rack up the strikeouts. And Milwaukee's a middle of the pack team in terms of strikeouts per game. So I don't think he's going to have this monster counts and just use a bunch of pitch counts and only go 5 or so. I think he's going to baffle the Brewers batters. I think you have to make this 18.5 or something like that. So I'll even do the juicy at 17.5 minus 186 for my first official play of the show.
No, I think that's a really smart look, Doug, because the Brewers are horrible against left-handed pitching, and we know Chris Sale is one of the better left-handers in the league we have today. So, they're hitting basically only 240, way below average. Only 3 hits against left-handed pitchers in 9 innings, and the things that are really, really low is they have no power. 0.3 home runs, 0.3 extra base hits. So they definitely struggle a ton, even at home against left-handed pitching, and I think that's a really smart move. And I think it goes a little, hand in hand with my underplay or my under lean as well. It's a little correlated.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love lane 186, but I'd rather do it on this prop than I would the Braves money line. Yes, they have the pitching edge, but the bats haven't done much. The Brewers have been doing well, like I said, 10-3 in their last 13. It's just I think I'm just more confident in Sale being able to get 18 outs or more and go 6 full innings because he's a guy who A has the latitude from his manager. He's thrown over 100 pitches in back-to-back games, and then he's thrown 95 or plus pitches in 10 straight starts. So he's going to be able to go deep, and I think he's going to be efficient against this Brewers lineup that can break at times, but it's always sneaky good, right? It's never like imposing on paper. And Sale, like you mentioned, just been such a workhorse and such a beast. So I'll roll with that game. Let's go to Anaheim. A's and Angels break up the Oakland Athletics. They've won 3 of 4 after going 1-20 in their previous 21 games, which is just incredible. That kind of run is God, I mean, I know losing streaks are more impressive, I guess, but 1-20 is special. What if you're the team that that starter that lost that game for the opposing team in this 21 game stretch? But here we are, the Halos minus 155 home favorites. Not a lot to write home about this game, but do you think the Athletics bats are sort of back and can turn this thing around? Because the Angels are hovering around 500 and Kikuchi's on the bump, so he's their ace, if you will.
I'm not the biggest fan of Kikuchi. I think he plays too much, plays with his food too much. If you look at
Yeah.
his historical numbers, not only this year, but he'll give you 100 pitches, but it's like 4 and 2/3 or 5 innings, right? Because he's averaging basically 20 pitches an inning. He walks a ton of guys. It's always been an issue with him. I don't like the Angels here. I don't see any value. Your question is, are the Athletics bats back? And they could be, right? They could be. They have a ton of power. They have a lot of young talent. And this is a great pitcher to see if their bats are fully back, right? They've won 3 of their last 4 against really good pitching that the Orioles threw out. And so I'm interested to see how Oakland, or is it Sacramento, the Athletics, how they react to everything, because prior to that 1-21 or 1-22 run, they were actually playing really good baseball. We'll see if they can come back to that, because I think they have, to me, they have more talent than the Angels here, and I think the value here is on the Athletics today.
Okay, yeah, I would it would for me, it's A's or pass. Like, you can't lay the 155 Kikuchi. I know the Angels have been not as terrible as they were in recent years, but yeah, no rush to bet on the Angels here, and I thought you nailed the Kikuchi breakdown. His prop right now is 17 and a half outs. Um, I'd probably take under, but it's a pass. But yeah, anything at 18. I mean, he's not going to be lined at 18 and a half. But if you could get that, because he does only go like 5 1/3 kind of stuff as well. All right, let's go to Fenway. Red Sox. I mentioned it on Friday with Adam the Bull, I believe. And I said, this is a spot where they could really turn things around. The Red Sox were in a funk. I was like, you go to Yankee Stadium, kind of catapult your stretch and sort of put the stuff behind you. And they got a big comeback, last night on Sunday Night Baseball against Rodon.
Mhm.
And they have the travel, though. Now it's travel home, and it's not the longest distance, but the late night turnaround is something we've discussed on this show for Mondays being a potential hangover for that road team Sunday night. Um, but Boston, I don't know. I mean, Campbell had the big home run against Rodon in the 5th, and it was a nice win for Boston. But I'm not ready to back him. But Bello's a guy I do kind of like to back sometimes.
Yeah, prior to this season, Doug, I was a huge Brian Bello fan. I think he's always been underrated, especially when he first came out. But this season's been really weird for him. He hasn't pitched well. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. Whether he's a favorite, an underdog, he's just been very, very underwhelming and disappointing. His last time out is probably his best game of the year, and he lost, right? He ended up losing to the Angels, or the Red Sox lost to the Angels 4-3, but he ended up going 103 pitches, 4 strikeouts, 3 earned runs, only 2 walks. I think that's a really quality start, especially for his standards this season. if he can continue that momentum into tonight, I do like Boston because their bats are humming. You mentioned not only the comeback against the Yankees in that ballpark, but prior to that, right? The last game against the Angels, 11 runs. First game in the Yankee series, 6, then 10, then 11. So 4 straight games of really great run production, not only with the long ball, but manufacturing through singles and doubles. So I do like the Boston Red Sox if Bello is gonna pitch like he did last time out.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have that guarantee, but I can see where you're coming from. By the way, Red Sox basically a pick 'em -112, and we love the chat really heating up right now. Get involved in the conversation in the comments section. Joshua Alexander, simple. Rays here. He likes the Rays. Daryl Turner, if the under is a possibility, then Rays should win tonight. So if he likes them in a low scoring game, if that's how it unfolds, even with Bello pitching well, theoretically in and under. So let us know your thoughts and games you have an eye on. Amish Farmer says Shane Baz of Tampa Bay pitches excellent against the Red Sox. Be careful. Red Sox hangover coupled with in general they can't hit beans. I would be looking at the under 8.5 at -110. So one guy likes the under. Another one says if the under is a possibility, then he likes the Rays in a low scoring game. So nice hedge avatar for the Amish farmer. I don't know if that's from Kingpin or not, but solid work there. Look, there's a lot. You know, this is a coin flip game. You're going to have differing opinions in this regard.
Doug, I think
So it's a
I
stay
I
away for me.
agree. Yeah, I agree with those comments. And instead of just going the sides or the total, maybe do both. Correlate them
Right.
because I do think it's a Rays plus under or a Red Sox plus over play, and you'll get way more, plus money value in that. I think if you parlay the two, that could be a good payout for you.
Good stuff. And I like the camaraderie in the Daryl talking to Byron. Very smart take. You've been doing your daily MLB research. See, it's a happy place. It's a very complimentary place. I like it when people get along. We don't need to be trolls on the internet. Come on, that's a fad, hopefully, and won't continue anymore because it's getting annoying out there in social media. Just a reminder, we've had some nice runs here. We the NBA show's coming up top of the hour, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Albert, you were strong as well in the NBA last week. Wes is on fire with his beloved Pacers. He went I think we're combined like 6-1 or something like that in our shows so far in games 1 and 2 of the finals. But other notable wins on this Bet Rivers Network and Betting Weekly channel. Sean Calvert tipped over 210 and a half minutes in the men's French Open final. And you had the big comeback, obviously, from down 2 sets to love. That was on Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. Match was the longest final ever at Roland Garros, nearly 5.5 hours. So incredible, dramatic, and a winning wager if you had the over 210.5 minutes. And just released this morning, Betting Weekly Dojo with Nigel Seeley, Neil Channing. They discussed the popularity of tennis betting, and certainly is. I've talked about golf and even baseball, sort of tailor made for betting. So is tennis. You can bet a set, you can bet a game, you can bet the next serve. Just the pace of the game gives a lot of opportunities. And Albert, I know you're a big tennis bettor as well, and tennis fan. What did you make of that amazing and epic and historic comeback?
I mean, it's probably the best Grand Slam final since the 2008 Wimbledon. And I'm a tennis historian, so I would love to, pick Nigel's brain and the rest of the team on Betting Weekly Studios. But I remember watching the Rafa Nadal final 2008. Basically, they were playing in the dark in that fifth set, and that's the same vibes that you got, on Sunday morning. Amazing comeback, and for someone who's not the biggest Yannick Sinner fan, I do give him a lot of props on how he accepted that loss. And his interview afterwards was really cool to see. He thanked Carlos for and congratulated Carlos for the amazing run, but also like thanked his team, thanked the fans, thanked the all the facilities, the ball boys, ball girls. So that was cool to see because that's probably most likely going to end up being the toughest loss of his career. It's 2 up, 2 sets up to nothing, up 5-3 in set three, 40 love, triple match point. And even if you don't break Alcaraz to win, you still had 5-4 on your serve to win. And he ended up getting broken himself. So that's gonna be a tough one to swallow. When he looks back in 15, 20 years, Doug, that's gonna be his worst loss, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the one he'll never get over. I mean, look, I only played college sports and things like that, and there's stuff I haven't gotten over 25 years later. So I can only imagine that stage and that level of competition, how much that stings. And we saw Rory at the Masters get over the hump finally and complete the career Grand Slam. So, these things can eat away at these star athletes for a lot of time for sure. Let's keep it going in baseball. Pirates hosting the Marlins. I mentioned earlier that Pittsburgh just swept the Phillies at home. Now they welcome in a Miami team that's 1-6 in its last 7, and of those 6 losses, remember they got swept at home by the lowly Colorado Rockies. Pirates a buck 17 home favorites. I'm not ready to lay it, but if I'm gonna lay it with the Pirates, it's gonna be against Yuri Perez of the Marlins, who's I'm not expecting um, much out of him in this game. So Pirates, it's national television at FS1, but I'm not ready to pull the trigger either.
Oh man, sorry to those folks at Fox Sports. You started this show with two of the best series going on right now with teams 22 and 24 games above 500. This got to be the worst series in terms of record that's going on. And I know Miami doesn't have the worst record in the majors, but after getting swept by the Rockies, you have to consider them the worst team, right? That's really bad, very embarrassing at home. No play for me here. I'm gonna be completely transparent with you, Doug. I'm probably not even gonna follow this game. I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing is when you bet these games, you also get stuck watching it, and there's just got to be better things to do with your life than watch that as well. But hey, all tickets cash the same, and
Very true.
I've been betting a lot of Chicago Sky team total unders, and it's painful to watch. My eyes are bleeding. It's like that meme when the guy's like prying his eyes open. That's what I have to do to watch this offense. But when they cash, it's much more bearable to watch. Let's put it that way. But you have to cash in order for it to be really worth that investment of time. The chat is still humming. I like all the feedback here. Maserati Fox says, anyone have a read on Mariners Diamondbacks? Byron says, I'm on Merrill Kelly over 5.5 Ks and laddering 6.5 at -115 and +175. Kelly has come on big time and then saying, yeah, nice read. I was looking at him myself. I hope he shows up. So let's talk about the Diamondbacks. I wondered if it was a no-fly zone for you after they burned you on the Braves
Mm.
last week, but it is potentially a bailout game. This one also on FS1, so a little bit more bearable. Merrill Kelly has pitched well. Hancock going for the Mariners. Kelly, 7 shutout innings of just 1 hit allowed in Atlanta in his last start. He got 8 strikeouts in that game. Did get touched up the 2 previous starts, so it's been a little hot and cold because he was good before that. Any read for you on this one is the Diamondbacks slight home dogs at Bet Rivers +102.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks are coming off a really long 6-game road trip, Atlanta, then Cincinnati. Now they have to fly back home out west to Arizona. This is going to be an elevation. I like the over here. This is going to be my first and only official play today on our show. I like the over. You can get it at 9 with a little juice or 9.5 with no juice. I think both are pretty safe, to be honest. We know with the elevation and with the Seattle bats and how, we have the home run leader there in Seattle, a ton of fly ball hitters there in Seattle. So I like the over. I wouldn't. I'm gonna stay away from that Kelly, over strikeouts, just because that goes a little counter to my intuition or my angle here. So I hope both of us cash Maserati, but let's hope we get some runs, especially late, right after Kelly gets out, and we get some bullpen runs.
Do you think the lineups are heating up for both guys? Because the pitchers have the capability to keep the batters off balance, but you think this lineups are sort of bet on stretch right now for
I
these
do
lineups?
with the combination of the elevation and both pitchers being fly ball pitchers.
Gotcha. Okay. This is exciting. A little late night. Look at the baseball we got tonight. The same time, 9:40 p.m. Eastern, Dodgers Padres. And as an LA native and Dodger fan, I'm fired up to watch that. And you have Mariners D-backs. I'll be keeping an eye on that. So that's your lone official play of the day. I only have one official play. It's a juicy one, so let's hope it gets there. Sale over 17.5 outs, -186. Just got a bank on the tall lefty to bring his lunch pail to work like he normally does. So you'll go over 9.5 was on the graphic, but I'm looking at Bet Rivers. It looks like it's moved to 9. at
Okay.
a little juice of -124. So I'll give you that one. That's just where it is right now. So we'll have -124 for you on that. And then I'm on the sale -186. We just want to remind you guys the betting a weekly newsletter is fantastic. We're talking tens and tens of pages. Soccer previews, tennis brackets and breakdowns. We just had the French Open, but virtually every day there's tennis. So a lot of good content on there. Links to these shows here on YouTube and the Bet Rivers Network and the Betting Weekly umbrella, and all the odds courtesy of Bet Rivers. So there's a lot of good stuff. Go check it out. bettingweeklystudios.com to sign up. And well, I know in last week Nigel was texting me. He's like, I need a pick for the finals, game one. I said, Halliburton under 17 and a half points, and we got there with ease in game one. But what about his propensity to kind of fall flat after a big game? Maybe that's a little extreme. We're going to talk to our resident Hoosier, Wes Reynolds, top of the hour over on Betting Weekly Fast Break. That's 3 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific. And same for this show, Betting Weekly Hardball, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, Monday through Friday. Obviously, the NBA Finals an extra day, so it's not in action till Wednesday, but it'll be Wes's only time on the show before game three. So we'll get his pick and obviously props and a bunch of stuff's already been posted out there. Going back to the chat as well. Good to get the camaraderie in here saying let's get the likes up. It's sort of the currency, right? In this new age of online content. So we agree. And Byron agreeing with Albert in terms of Arizona and Seattle. Agree, Albert, with the crappy bullpens. So a lot of call a spade when you have it. Okay, anything else jump out at maybe of a prop or something we didn't touch on?
No, I think we covered the games really well. I do think like the more we do this, though, we're gonna get a little more comfortable doing the series betting because I think there's a lot of value with series and it allows bettors like ourselves to look ahead at a couple games, right? And I think that's really important because when you're a team and you know you have a 3 game set against let's just say the Dodgers and your ace is going in game three, that's when you know from a lineup perspective, from who's starting and who's focused for that game. I think those are the opportunities where we can see which teams or which games are really zeroing in. And so I think getting into the series betting can really help us from a baseball perspective.
Yeah, and you can play out of some if you have some good positions,
Yep.
especially if the ace is the last pitcher to go in the series. But let's wish Byron good luck. As for Toronto to win the series, he was sniffing ahead with that Wednesday getaway game. So I like that angle a lot. So good stuff across the board. I agree with you, Albert. We should look at series betting a little more, and we'll have that maybe to be continued on the next sort of series openers. What is that going to be? Likely Thursday or Friday. So we'll have to make a note in the schedule and the notes so we can help our audience along those lines. But that's going to do it for this edition of Betting Weekly Hardball. We so very much appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Next show under the Betting Weekly umbrella, just around the corner, 20 minutes away, top of the hour, Betting Weekly Fast Break, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Wes Reynolds, who's been on fire with his NBA picks and WNBA for that matter. I really like a WNBA play tomorrow. I'm going to give it out because we have lines posted. So going to break all that down and look ahead, of course, to Wednesday's game one or game three of the NBA Finals, the first game as its series shifts to Indiana. So for Albert Nguyen and everyone behind the scenes who does all the heavy lifting, the researchers, the producers, the graphics, you name it, directors, I'm Doug Kezirian. We'll see you back here tomorrow.